Good evening, everybody. How are you guys doing tonight? I do apologize for the time change that I had to do. Earlier, I was busy with my horse, so I had to change the time a little bit. So, thank you guys for joining me, for anyone who's going to go live with me. And for those who are going to be watching this later, welcome as well. This is a type of story, legend, if you call it, that I've been wanting to talk about. Was going to be talking about last week, but unfortunately, my antivirus had other plans for the computer, so it's all fixed. So we got this all up and running. So today we're going to be talking about a local legend that's in my area. It's been told like orally many times. It's called the Legend of Maud. I don't know if anyone's heard about that. It's interesting legend slash true story or myth. You take it. Some people in that area have experienced some weird stuff around surrounding the story. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. So I'll be getting into a article from the Norwich Bulletin that talks about the legends. There's like several articles on this story. So according to the story, originally it goes about a ghost, some type of ghost girl. She was apparently murdered or she died, and supposedly her ghost haunts the forest on Hell's Hollow Road. So here we go for the first article. This is from the Norwich Bulletin. Patchogue Forest Home to Ghostly Sightings. This was posted February 26th of 03. It was dark and he couldn't see anything, but he heard a strange rustling of leaves and then a loud screeching sound. Hunter Henry Tabor thought it might be a wild boar, or maybe a bear or a bobcat, but in the end, he could never really convince himself it was an animal. But he did know one thing. He wanted to get out of Patchogue State Forest as fast as he could. Most of the state's largest forest is in Voluntown, but parts of it stretch into North Stonington, Griswold, Sterling, and Plainfield. The forest is vast and it is haunted, supposedly. Tabor has been hunting there for about 30 years. You hear these like screaming noises, Tabor said. You hear a lot of certain noises like that aren't typical. It gets you nervous in the woods. He's not the only hunter paranoid about going into the forest. He said he has many friends who feel the same. The scream Tabor heard might have been the cry of a lone Indian woman said to have been murdered in the forest in the 1600s. It's a story included in The Hauntings of Patchogue Forest by David Trifilo. According to Trifilo, an Indian girl was killed by English soldiers in Hell Hollow section of the forest. Ever since, cries attributed to her have been heard there. Trifilo said Hell Hollow was never permanently settled because of its reputation as haunted. Barry Gullickson had hunted the forest for 15 years and also has heard odd screaming sounds. It's an eye-opener. It's like a piercing sound, Gullickson said. The ghost of a little girl named Maud has been appearing for 100 years on Hell Hollow Road, near her gravesite. That legend is included on websites on Connecticut hauntings. Trifilo also points out his booklet that people driving through the forest are driving through a former village. Hundreds of people lived there for the 1600s until the Great Depression. The forest still contains many foundations and burial sites. Other legends include a woman from the 1860s who threatened death to anyone who stole from her lilac bushes. Mrs. Gorton guarded the lilacs at her home on Bailey Pond Road, according to Trifolo's book. A young boy said to have stolen some lilacs disappeared one October day while fishing by Mrs. Gorton's pond. Author Trifolo claimed he saw one of the forest ghosts, a breakneck hill guard, who appears randomly walking back and forth at a bend in Breakneck Hill Road. This was a story that sparked Trifolo's interest in haunted trails from the forest. Trifolo said the spirit he saw most likely was a soldier from Narragansett Wars of the late 1600s and early 1700s. His pamphlet, he said, The Legend of the Breakneck Hill Guard, can be traced back to 1742 when the first sighting occurred. According to Trifolo, he was making a sharp turn on Breakneck Hill Road when he saw a tattered colonel soldier carrying a long musket over his right shoulder marching across the road. When Trifolo slammed on his brakes, the man disappeared. I could not bring myself to tell anyone about what I had seen for many weeks, he wrote in his pamphlet. I thought everyone would think I was crazy or something, but he's there as sure as the sun rises in the morning. That guard is still doing his job at that bend in Breakneck Hill Road. Town Clerk Cheryl Sadowski said few people come to town hall inquiring about the legends or seeking direction to the so-called haunted sites. Not everybody in the town is convinced the forest is haunted. Maud's grave, that's all I can tell you, Preston resident Jerry Marginiak said. I have heard of guys that went down there and disrupted her grave, brought them to a church in Griswold, and within a few weeks they died. Wow. Wally Hill, who has lived in town for more than 10 years, also knows about Maud's grave. Everybody and their brother talks about that, Hill said. But I don't believe in ghosts. Attempts to reach Trifolo for this story was unsuccessful. So that one was Norwich Bulletin. That's pretty creepy. And here's another article about Maud. So what do you guys think Maud is? It's actually a weird name. It's kind of strange that an actual person would be actually named Maud. But, okay, this is back in the 1600s, so I guess everyone had some interesting names back then. Anyways, let's continue on with another article about Maud. This is from damnconnecticut.com. Maud's grave, Wallentown and Sterling. In the Hell Hollow area of the Patchogue Forest, there are multiple local legends regarding Maud's grave. It has become a place shrouded in a bit of mystery and legend, and one that seems to draw ghost hunters and curiosity seekers as well as a number of bored teenagers. So who was Maud, and why is her grave so troubled? Some claim she was a witch who was persecuted by the locals and then hanged, while others claim she was the daughter of a witch who was tortured and killed. Another group will tell you that she was simply a child who got lost in the woods or died of smallpox. Then there are others who think she is related to the screaming spirit of a Native American woman slain by British soldiers. According to the best researched account, We can find the day of New London. Maud Reynolds was almost 2 years old when she died in October of 1890. The death certificate states the cause of her death as diphtheria, a common and sometimes fatal ailment in the 19th century. But there are some accounts suggested that family members thought she may have choked on a piece of apple. For reasons only known to her family, she wasn't buried with other deceased relatives in the Reynolds family cemetery, but instead was laid to rest in a spot closer to their home. Some speculate it was so that the 5 foot tall cement cross that originally marked her grave could be seen from the house by her grieving parents. The cross has since been knocked down, and now Maud's unmarked grave is now in the middle of the woods. At the time of her death, it was at the edge of a field belonging to the family farm, but has long since been reclaimed by the surrounding landscape. Apparently, there is another more popular grave site nearby in the Sterling end of Hell Hollow, marked with a broken headstone inscribed Maud, M-A-U-D. The dates 1647 through 1654 don't match those of Maud Reynolds, and as it made of cement unusual for grave markers, there's speculation that it's a hoax, or simply someone else named Maud. This one is better known and seems to be the one most of the legend surrounds, and thus draws more attention. We haven't been able to find any specific stories of a witch, persecution, or execution in the area, but that certainly doesn't mean it didn't happen. In addition to these two stories, there's also a legend of a Native American woman who was killed by early colonists in the late 18th century, and whose screams can still be heard in the first forest today. Fisher cat, anybody? The Patchogue Forest is also allegedly home to a number of other ghost entities, detailed in The Hauntings of Patchogue Forest by David Trifilo, which you can read. As you might imagine, a mysterious grave in the forest has inspired many legends and friend of a friend type stories, the most popular of which is along the lines of teenagers party on or desecrate the grave, and then soon meet tragic deaths. Others suggest that by simply coming close to the grave is enough to upset Maud, and she will move the rocks on her grave in protest. Also, it's alleged that by simply saying her name aloud in the vicinity of her grave can bring about a curse that will follow you home. Of course, everything from ghosts and spiritness or orbs and cold spots have been experienced here. The disembodied cries of a young girl have also been reported, and others have recorded EVPs. In addition to supposed feelings of dread, there are also urban legends like accounts of a mysterious woman instantaneously appearing in the middle of the roadway, getting hit by a car, but not actually leaving a solid corpse behind. So although Maud may has long been laid to rest, many believe she's not resting peacefully. So if you go, Little Maud Reynolds' unmarked grave is supposedly just off of Hell Hollow Road in Voluntown. It's marked by a pile of rocks. To get to the second, possibly fictional Maud site, apparently also a pile of rocks, take Hell Hollow Road into Sterling and cross Route 49 onto Cedar Swamp Road. On the right is a Cedar Swamp Cemetery. Beyond that, you will find a path into the woods and shortly past the stream. There's a large gnarled dead tree and a small stone foundation. The broken headstone is right in this area. So that's the second article. Oops. So not too long ago, me and my friend Kyle actually went out in that area where Cedar Swamp is. It's off Cedar Swamp Road as a trail. When you get to the very end of the trail, and sure enough, you see like a foundation of what looks like, I took this in the wintertime, what looked like a house at one point. There's like rocks, stone wall all around the area, a certain area, and I never saw the grave. I never want to visit the grave at this point after hearing all the weird stories some people have had. I've heard a weird story at work as well. But stone structures are there. And here's another one. This is another stone structure that off in the woods. This was like off the trail in Patchogue Forest. No, that is not Maud's grave. There's like lots of all these. If you go like in the woods in Connecticut and up in Massachusetts, there's like stones structures like everywhere. Some of them could be a marked grave or something, or some of them probably once were houses. They're pretty interesting, and they're very old. There's lots of historical stuff here. And I'll share one more article with you guys. So, Trouble on Hell Hollow Road. White Ghosts, Maternal Grief, and the Gendered Fragility of American Park Mythology. Buried beneath dead leaves off Hell Hollow Road in Voluntown, Connecticut, the remnants of an empty grave lie intentionally unmarked for their own protection. A drive down the single-lane park road in the darkening days approaching Halloween is something of a rite passage of past among youth in the state's northeastern quiet corner. It is a pilgrimage which endures the legacy of an underlying occult story. Hell Hollow Road, they say, is haunted by the ghost of Maud, a malevolent, centuries-dead witch, so evil her body was rejected from her family's established plot. Unfit to rest alongside the more honorable, she was buried alone in what is now Patchogue State Forest, one of Connecticut's 139 public state parks. She hunts the park road seeking revenge for her ostracization. Her spirit, a harbinger of doom and damnation, holding the ground to which her bones were allegedly outcast over a century ago. At least this is how the story goes. Ghost stories set in and around public parks offer an interesting vehicle to explore park mythology. Central to Jessica DeWitt's theory of park mythology are the stories that society tells. Stories that fail to critically assess parks as colonial and capitalist institutions. Definitional to this theory also is the viewing of public green spaces as unqualified good things. Indeed, as Dane Kennedy puts it in one example, the benefits of empire were, to the Victorians, expressed through the language of liberalism, the empire viewed as cosmopolitan force. Extended to DeWitt's theory of park mythology, considering parks as benefits of empire, provides critical 19th century context for the qualification of the good things and their entanglements with colonialism, especially where unqualified by fact apocryphal oral histories are among these good things. Benefits unburdened of the colonial legacies and capitalist realities they represent. Mods is no Mods is no exception and provides a proving ground on which DeWitt's theory can be tested and applied to American imperialism. And this is the real story of Mod. Born in 1888 and dying in October of 1891, the real Maud was the toddler daughter of Lucy and Gilbert Reynolds, a farming couple living in Hill Hollow. Connecticut was with a single horse farm at the time of the 1880 census, according to Ancestry.com. Just shy of her birthday, the child choked to death in the night on an apple. Devastated, her parents buried their daughter, where the child's grave marker could easily be seen from the house. Okay. Lucy then united a parental front. Their farm's established family resting place further down the property must have felt too far from the home, and second family plot was established, spurring the generational imagination of a notoriously superstitious rural New England to ponder the unusual choice. The child's headstone has been desecrated, removed, defiled, interlaced with enough frequency to prompt even a rumor of the eventual exhumation and relocation of the child's grave. Maud, while leading an unfairly and posthumously vilified childhood, is not the witch her folkloric legacy hunts. She is a provably fanciful invention of a white Parker's goers. Was it fair to say she does not exist? Where driven by the oral histories of white communities, the presence of 19th century spirits in the American Park mythology is definitionally to its relationship with profit. In considering the relationship between parks and profit, Leslie Bella's 1987 work argues that the very creation of public parks not only guarantee but imply their capitalist exploitation. Bella, 1987. But in defining landscape as a resource which cannot be exported, Bella's theory falls short of considering non-monetary forms of profit as social currency. Indeed, if Alfred W. Crosby's work reminds modern scholars that human colonizers are never really alone in the natural world. The automatic carriers of environmental adulterators, perhaps it is plausible to consider them the carriers of the stories society tells. Browning and silver, traded, commodified, adjusted, and resold in white environmental hierarchies, unqualified spooky tales of rural 19th century life, have credible staying power to import park tourists. The ghosts themselves are a campfire commodity. Unsurprisingly, the story of Lucy and Maud demonstrates an important pattern to this commodification. Along the pathway of imperial expansion, ghost stories shape gendered experience of park mythology, and the sun never sets on one white feminine archetype. In San Francisco, a spectral young mother in Golden State Gate Park searches the bank of Stowe Lake frantically for the baby whose carriage she lost to the water. In the protected pine barrens of New Jersey, on the eastern seaboard, the legend of the Jersey Devil, the illegitimate chimera of the devil himself in Mr. Leeds, endures an anachronistic in her long 19th century gown. the restless spirit of the White Lady, or the damned offspring of one, as in the case of Maud, is prevalent across the mythos of public parks the world over, amplified by its reincarnations in media and culture. Critically, the archetype reveals park mythology reliance on heteronormative cisgendered responses to emotional anguish, specifically to reproductive anguish. Her appearance is the epitome of gendered mythologized relationships with public land, putting nature on a pedestal and admiring it from afar, doing for the environment what patriarchy does for the figure of woman. In recent years, Maud's story has been revisited and revealed for the tragedy which underlies the fiction, bringing context to the life of the long-forgotten woman whose non-normative, environment-bending choices birthed a century-long witch hunt. Indeed, modern scholarship holds the power to posthumously exonerate feminine figures from the archaic moral crimes of which they were perceived guilty in the death, reburying them as the women they truly were. But wherever the environmental choices of white feminine figures are contextualized, so too the entanglements between the feminine and the imperial are revealed. It is precisely the entanglements which are too often left bare in environment contexts, removed from their role in life as settler beneficiaries of empire. White ghosts are interred anew on a stage of regeneration of American nationalism. As the posthumous settlers of public land and parks, archetypal ghosts like Maud's maintain the unqualified transmission of white on a gendered imperial landscape, where each coincidence of their archetype in public land occurs. The link between profit and the maintenance of these punishing boundaries must be considered critical to global studies of park mythology. Hell Hollow's legacy and profitability haunts every settled park, every town, every green corner. Park mythology and the profitability of story as currency provides a footbridge over this otherwise deep and empty grave. Pretty interesting reads. So that's an overview on the Legend of Maud. I mean, I've been down Cedar Swamp Road on and off. I've never really seen anything. I mean, it gets dark. It looks creepy at night. Yeah, I've been down Hills Hollow. It's actually pretty narrow. It's like kind of scary driving down. If you're not, if you're kind of speeding, you gotta slow down when you're back there. Have I come across Maud's grave? I don't think so. I mean, back when me and Kyle were back there, we might have gotten close because right at the end of the trail is the foundation of the house that I showed you guys earlier. The only issue that I've had were kind of similar Bigfoot activity. I mean, could paranormal and Bigfoot activity be together? Could they be related? Never know. Because in some cases, I've noticed with paranormal activity in the area, Bigfoot activity follows. So I find that quite fascinating and interesting. Not seen anything yet, but I've also had a coworker that's experienced weird stuff on Hell's Hollow. She's had some weird stuff when she was back there. I mean, she's seen like a ghost car. I mean, their car actually shut off for a while after her sisters had said Maud's name and all kinds of weird stuff. happened afterwards. So that was her story. That was from a coworker of mine that shared that. Yep, they do. It's very Blazy Boo. So the road is seasonal. They close it at a certain period of time. They close it kind of like in the fall air time, and then they open it in the spring. Yeah, it gets pretty when it in the wintertime it gets pretty rough back there. So thank you, Blazy Boo, for that. I hope you guys enjoyed hearing about the local legend. If I may eventually, I might have Kyle come back on. Maybe we can talk a little more about this legend and anything else. Have a good night, everybody. Enjoy your night.